it gets really difficult because when you move into that lead others to lead leaders, when you are leading others, you're leading the people who are doing the work.
Hmm.
And suddenly you're leading people who are leading people who are doing the work. And it becomes less important about what you do and more important about how you lead.
Most coaching and consulting businesses, they really grow through relationships and referrals. But
Mhm.
as they scale, something starts to break with that original model and operations can get messy, right? This doesn't happen to
Mhm.
everybody, but founders often become bottlenecks and growth starts to become harder rather than easier. So, Brent, you work with CEOs and leaders to solve these exact types of challenges.
Mhm. Yep.
And you've been doing this for over 20 years. And now you're the founder of Vibrancy Unlocked, and you help organizations to really rethink the way that they approach growth, performance, and success. So,
Mhm.
tell me more about your story and how you got to where you are.
Well, that's a long journey, Heather.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because you said bottlenecks and you talked about bottlenecks. The thing that's interesting about bottlenecks is that they're always at the top. The bottleneck is always at the top of the bottle. And that's something that I witnessed or observed early on in my career. I've had, I started off working in a homeless shelter as a development director, working in charge of fundraising, volunteer programs, public relations. And then I had my first chance of really being in that CEO executive leader suite at or executive leader seat at the Chippewa Valley Free Clinic. And so I ran a free medical clinic at the age of 26 years old. And
Wow.
we served thousands of patients a year and worked with a large volunteer staff to provide quality medical care to people who couldn't afford it. Went from there and I did about 15 years of consulting. And I had my own firm for 7 years. I sold it to a firm in North Carolina and I worked with that firm for another 7 years. And there was a point where I was like, I want to start my own thing again. And I really want to focus it on the things that I have seen, the things that I'm excited about, which is leadership, is executives, it's CEOs. It's really my favorite part was always working with those senior leaders. And so I want to focus on them, and that's what we're doing now.
Wonderful. So, what major shifts are you seeing right now in leadership and coaching and leadership development? And, is this a common thing that you're seeing where this operational challenge, as a company grows, right, becomes one of the biggest challenges preventing that company from scaling?
Sure. I think some of the challenges that I see are um, yes, they're operational in as a symptom, but when you get to the root of it, I think they're based in leadership. And
Mhm.
they're based in the struggle of leaders of letting go of things that they were formerly in charge of insisting on it being their way every single time, and of always getting in the middle of stuff. And so it's very easy, especially when you start as a founder and then it keeps growing and it's like, that's my baby. I want it to keep going. I want to keep running this business this way, or this is what's important. And it's very easy for leaders to get in their own way and to get out of the wrong zone. They're doing things that they really shouldn't be doing. And I've running into this myself from time to time. Just recently we hired a marketing firm, and this firm, this guy's very very talented, really excited to be working with this team, and yet it's uncomfortable because I have to admit I don't know everything. I'm not good at everything, and I have to trust that someone else is going to be looking out for my best interest, and that takes courage, that takes humility, and it's that leadership gap. I mean, there's more than enough organizations and people and folks even like yourself, Heather, that are out there trying to help, but the first step is really for that leader to acknowledge it and say, all right, I need help. I need to actually work on something different. I need to be focusing on what I'm really great at and let other people do what they're great at.
Yeah, and I hear that so often in my discussions with leaders that that's what they need to do. So why is it so hard? Is it because obviously these leaders got to the place where they are because they're so self-reliant
Sure.
in one way, right? They're
Yep.
independent, they're self-starters, they're go-getters in that way. They're visionaries. So maybe it's because it kind of goes against their nature. Or what do you think is the reason?
Here's one of the theories that I've got. So I often will teach there's 5 levels of leadership.
Hmm.
And so the 5 levels of leadership are know yourself, lead others, lead leaders, and lead movements. And um, when you move from that transition of leading others to leading leaders, it gets really complicated. It gets really difficult because when you move into that lead others to lead leaders, when you are leading others, you're leading the people who are doing the work.
Hmm.
And suddenly you're leading people who are leading people who are doing the work. And it becomes less important about what you do and more important about how you lead. And so leaders, when you think about high action, founders who are, get in the weeds, get work done, plow through it. There's almost a betrayal of being a founder or being an owner that you get to a certain point, or being a CEO, you get to a certain point. What Marshall Goldsmith says, "What got you here won't get you there." And so that push, that hard work, let's plow through it, um, isn't isn't going to help at that high executive level. And so you need to think differently, you need to approach differently in order to be really successful at that level. And sometimes it's, oh, I need more time to think, I need more time to process, I need less time to do, I need more time to engage in supporting my team and encouraging them and coaching them than I need like joysticking my team,
Hmm.
or getting into the weeds of things. And so that's a core part of the challenge.
Hmm. Yeah, because you're saying that in the beginning, it's mostly about just understanding the basics of the product, the target audience, the service,
Hmm.
everything that you're offering. And then when you are trying to scale, it's about creating a culture in your
Hmm.
business, right?
Creating a culture, creating value, creating a trusting relationship. All those aspects are really critical. And I spend a
Yeah.
lot of time working with, in our coaching practice, we work with CEOs. We're a CEO focused company.
Mhm.
And we spend a lot of time working with CEOs, helping them to make that shift from leader of others to leader of leaders, and
Mhm.
to help get out of the weeds, to help them free up time. One of the biggest things that I hear from our clients is, oh, I'm so busy. I'm so busy. I don't have time for anything. And that's exactly why we work with our clients, because you don't need to be as busy as you think you are. Uh, if we can help our clients slow down, ironically, slowing down actually speeds them up.
Mm. Okay. To kind of like refocus on those relationships. And you're saying as a company grows, now they're training the managers, they're training people with direct reports. And that's what you mean when you say leaders training leaders within their company.
Not necessarily even training leaders, leading leaders.
Right.
So the thing is that, um, we have so much, there's so much specialty, we're so specialized these days. I mean,
Mhm.
I have a client who, his firm makes videos online for social media for clients remotely, and they are no longer than 90 seconds in length, and more often than not they're 60 seconds, less than 60 seconds. He is
Wow.
so specialized that he's not just a videographer. He's not an in-person videographer. He is a remote videographer. He has an editing firm. They do all these, like, it is so, things are getting so specialized right now in our society and our work. How can any one leader have their thumb on everything? They
Yeah.
need to trust, they need to lead. And in some cases they can't even train because they don't even know what to train because there's too much out there. So it's like, okay, what do you think? Where do you need to train yourself? How do you need to learn? How do you need to grow? Help me help you in that. And that is a mind shift that leaders need to take.
Yeah, absolutely. And you have a little bit of experience with that yourself, right? Being a leader of leaders yourself. How do you feel that transition was for you? And like, what did you learn from going through that yourself?
Well, many years ago, this was in my very first job back at the homeless shelter. I had an intern. Her name was Elizabeth. And I hired her full time. Eventually, she came on staff after her internship, and we had a history, we had a practice of working a lot of hours at this homeless shelter because we're sacrificing ourselves for the cause and that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And one day we'd get there at 8 o'clock. We'd work till 6:30, and then because we didn't get enough done, we'd sometimes come in on Saturdays. That was our practice. And one day she came into my office and she said, "Brent, I want to leave at 4. I want to leave at 4 every day." I'm like, "Okay. And how are you going to make up your work? Are you gonna work through lunch? Nope. Are you gonna come in earlier? Nope." And we happen to have been a Christian homeless shelter. And I said, "So I don't understand. What's the how is this going to work?" And she said to me, "If God can't use my 40 hours, how can He use my 60?" And I was like, "Okay." That was like a eureka moment for me. And I said, "All right, if you can leave at 4 o'clock, provided that I'm also leaving at 4 o'clock." And of course, we went to our separate ways. But if we both leave at 4, then that's fine. And I'll tell you what, we got more done leaving at 4 than we ever did working till 6 or 6:30 because
Wow.
we were more focused, we were more intentional, we were more deliberate. And so there's a funny law. It's not a real law, but it's called Parkinson's Law, and it says the work will expand to the space or the time and resources that are available to it.
Mm-hmm.
And so what we can tend to do is we can tend to get too out there. We can tend to get too busy, um, we can get too busy. We can get too uh, into our own things. And so what we need to do is actually focus that time. And that's one of the challenges that a lot of leaders struggle with.
Yeah. And it's probably something we all struggle with, right? Like
Absolutely.
we can easily
Absolutely.
get caught up in the day-to-day fires and things that are going on in our personal and professional lives, right?
So
Um,
when we go back to that story, you asked the question, well, have you been dealing with this before? That early situation was transformative to me. And ever since then, I started to realize the more that I do as a leader, the less that gets done.
mm,
And so I really focus on leading my team and engaging them and empowering them to be successful instead of doing all the work myself so that I am successful. Because truly, my success is due to their success. So I spend a lot more time focusing on my team than I do on myself or my own personal production.
yeah. So that makes sense why that would be such a hard transition if, in a business, you go from focusing on those day-to-day aspects to letting go, trusting that somebody else can take care of those things, and then focusing on supporting them and getting those things done. Yeah,
Exactly right.
it's
Yep.
quite a transition. A lot of
Mhm.
people need help with that. So for you, like in your business, growth, what is the next stage for you guys?
Well, um, we have we're 3.5 years old.
Mhm.
And we spent the first 3.5 years really focusing in on who are we, what is our brand, what are we doing, what are our systems, what is our structure, and how do we scale.
Mhm.
And we have not spent a lot of energy in scaling. We have been spending energy getting things ready to scale.
Mhm.
Because a lot of businesses, the way that they grow is they market, 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 and then they are not able to follow through with the quality of that, and they end up burning out their team, or they burn out their customers, or they cause other problems early on in the company. And
Mhm.
so I wanted to flip that and say, all right, let's do just enough work so
Mhm.
that we can build our systems. And so I've got a special projects manager on our team who she just does things like writes procedures and policies and structures, and she's developing systems for this 3-year-old company that is small at this point, so
Mhm.
that we can scale. We are now at that point where we're ready to scale. And we've identified our markets. We've identified who our customers are. We have a defined customer list. We know exactly who we're going for, what we're going for, and how we're going for them. And it's working. And so we're really excited about that growth. We are working with a lot of finance institutions in the state of Wisconsin and beyond that. Particularly banks and credit unions and wealth management organizations. The CEOs of those types of organizations that's our audience, and that's who we're working with, and we're getting some really nice traction. So it's now time to scale. I just added 2 new coaches to our team.
Oh,
They are
wow.
phenomenal people. In some cases I'm like, well, how do I get to lead these people? Like, they're just, I always want to hire people who are smarter than I am, and I'm fairly convinced they are. They're just fabulous people. And so I'm excited to have Austin and Janet on our team, and as coaches to CEOs, that level, that caliber, and it's really going to elevate what we do at Vibrancy Unlocked.
That's so exciting. So all you need to do is just flip on the switch. You got everything ready to go, everything planned out. That's
Well, it's never that easy,
yeah,
of
right,
course, but
right.
our systems and our structures. The last thing that we needed was that marketing anchor, and we secured that just recently, and we're in the process of implementing those plans, and that's working well too. So I'm really pleased about the trajectory of this company, and I think we're well positioned for some pretty significant growth.
That's so exciting. So tell me a little bit more about your ideal client that you are
Sure.
working with
Yep.
currently and looking to work with.
Yep.
Mhm.
So our ideal client is a okay, let me focus on something first. So
Mhm.
there is ideal client, and then there is the market that your market niche that you're focusing on. And
Mhm.
so there's a difference there.
Yeah.
So the market niche that we're pouring energy into is banks and credit unions in the state of Wisconsin,
Mhm.
and that's where we're starting. We're going to be expanding to Minnesota and Iowa and Alabama and Louisiana. We've got one of our coaches is in the South,
Mhm.
but financial institutions. That's where we're starting right now. In part because we've got people who have significant backgrounds in finance,
Mhm.
and so we're moving in that direction first.
Mhm.
Um, but our ideal customer is a CEO
Mhm.
who is working for an organization, has a C-suite leadership team. So generally they got to have 30 to 50 employees at the minimum, but we've worked with as much as, 1,000 or 1,500, 2,000 employees within our practice. And so, but they have a defined C-suite executive leadership team, and they are the type of leader that wants more, but they
Mhm.
want more of the right thing, not more of the wrong thing. And so, more of the right thing are things like more freedom, more opportunities to invest in the things that they're best at, more joy in their work, and that all leads to more profit. And so, those are the things that we really focus on with our clients. And so, generally, they are mid-size organizations, mid-size businesses, and we'll work anywhere in the world. I'm in the process of talking to some folks down in the southern United States right now for some clients, and we're also talking to someone in Uganda for a possible client as well. So
Wow.
coaching transcends borders, which is a cool thing.
Yeah, very exciting. Wow. Thank you for sharing all that with me. It really paints a
Yeah,
picture for our listeners, for myself, of your specific skill sets. So for these leaders and also for yourself, what would you tell them is one thing that, you wish you had learned, or that you have talked to many other founders that wish that they had learned this earlier on? What's one kind of takeaway that you would leave your audience with?
Mhm.
I know we've talked about so many gems
Hmm.
already. So if you want
Yeah.
to just do a
Yeah.
quick summary, that would probably
Yeah.
be
You
great.
know, I think one of the biggest lessons that I end up having to teach myself on a regular basis, but I also am spending a lot of time with my clients on is is you don't have to be everything to everyone.
Mhm.
And so a lot of what we talk about is authentic leadership is saying it's okay for the CEO to say, I don't know that. Or, you know what, I need to trust you on this. Can I how do I support you in this direction? Or even to say, you know what, I don't think I'm the best person to make this decision.
Mhm.
I want to push that down. Reed Hastings, the CEO of Netflix, one of his goals is to have an entire quarter where he does not make a decision. He's like, I don't want to make any decisions. I want to be the CEO that makes no decisions. And he hasn't succeeded in that goal yet, but he's working on reducing the number of decisions that he makes. And that takes that humility, that takes that self-awareness to be able to say, you know what, it if it's a finance or if it's a marketing decision, let the marketing team make that decision. If it's a product decision, let the product team make the decision. That way they own it. That builds their ownership and their engagement. They're closer to the problem anyway, or closer to the opportunity. So I may be way up here in my ivory tower, but if I can empower my team, then the company runs. And it's my job then to, like you said earlier, Heather, set the culture, set the pace,
Mhm.
provide, just like a conductor of an orchestra, provide the cadence. Here's the beat. This is how we're working. This is where we're going. You do what you're best at. And that's really what the best CEOs are doing.
Got it. So they're really, I mean, first that comes with hiring the right people, right? And
Absolutely.
having that trust in them as the first step. And if that's not there, then probably needs some changes, right?
Yep.
But yeah,
This is
that's
probably a whole nother podcast, but
great.
I talk about the four no's of executive leadership, of excellent executive leadership, and that's KNOW, not NO. So KNOW, know yourself, know
Mhm.
your role, know your team, and know that simplicity is always the answer. And so um, when we're looking at CEOs and other founders, knowing your role is so critical. And the CEO, the founder, they really only have three roles. They only have three things that they really need to do. Everything else can be handled by staff. So the first is to set the vision. Here's where we're going, and hold them to that course.
Mhm.
The second is to form a team and to lead them.
Mhm.
And the third is to represent the organization to its stakeholders. Be the voice, be the face, communicate, represent the organization. They're the only ones that can do those three things in the way that they can do those. Everything else can be handled by staff. And so when you start going in and doing other things, you better have a really good reason for doing
Mhm.
that.
Don't want too many cooks in the kitchen, so to
Hmm.
speak.
Correct.
Right? Yeah.
Correct. So,
Yeah, that's definitely something that I think probably every business owner, every leader struggles with, especially if they have a team of leaders,
mhm.
right? Yeah. Thank you. That's such good insight, and I've just really enjoyed our conversation. How can people find out more about you and if they want to work with you or just more about
Sure.
the work that you do?
Well, if you are a CEO who wants more, who's growing, who is um, maybe struggling with busy, you're way too busy or you're isolated or something like that, you can go to vibrancyunlocked.com and learn more about our company. You can also reach out to any of us on our team, and we'd be happy to connect with you and learn a little bit more about your leadership journey and how we can help.
Wonderful. Thank you, Brent.
Thank you.